Sometimes the path you take in life isn't about choosing one direction. It's about realizing you don't actually have to choose it all. Welcome to the Marquis Masters podcast. I'm Nick Franck. Today, I'm joined by Joan Sugerman, producer and creative director at Global Cinema, and also the founder and CEO of Gemini Worldwide. Joan's story starts earlier than most. As a kid, she often found herself sitting in on business meetings with her father, listening to conversations about strategy, leadership, and big ideas long before most people ever step into those rooms. Those early experiences helped shape how she approaches both storytelling and transformation in her work today. In this episode, we talk about how Joan first got her foot in the door in video and filmmaking, how those creative experiences eventually intersected with her work as a transformational consultant and coach, and why she chose not to narrow her career to just one path. Instead, she built a career that brings together storytelling through film and helping people and organizations evolve. Let's get into it. I'm very excited today to be joined by Joan Sugerman. Joan, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. How are you this afternoon?
I'm actually really great. It's been an amazing week.
Well, I'm incredibly excited to dive into your career, which has taken quite an interesting path. You've worked in film to then transforming to a consultant and executive coach. Let's just kind of dive back. How did that journey begin?
It started a long time ago when I was like 10 years old or younger. It started in two ways. I was very artistically inclined, and so was my mother. And I did drawings all the time. I did some paintings. I won some awards. This was all not even, guided by school. I just did it. So I was always artistically inclined and creatively inclined. And my father was the CEO of a company, and he had CEOs frequently, and I mean frequently, like almost every week, from all over the world for dinner. And I would sit there soaking up everything they said. So I learned about business before I even knew I was learning about business. And it became completely natural for me. In fact, it was so natural that there was the CEO of Sony Corporation who came over from Japan. And we kind of struck up a friendship when I was, I think 12. And we became pen pals all during high school. Wow. So I just grew up in the world of CEOs and business, and I grew up in the world of art. And I made it my business to go to New York almost every week. I took the train, even though I was kind of young, and I went to museums almost every week in New York. And I was living in two worlds even then, and I'm still living in these two worlds.
Yeah. And for those, part of your role and what you're doing is transformational consulting. What does that mean? Tell me about what that means for those who aren't totally familiar with it. And how do you help individuals and organizations achieve the change that they're really looking for?
So let me just give you a little background on how it started. In my early 20s, I got a job at AT&T doing corporate videos. And so my career really started with video. And when actually before that, I was doing television commercials in New York and then segueing to doing corporate videos. So I ended up creating the subjects of the videos and I took them to the corporate executives, some really subjects that I thought were important. And I took them to the corporate executives. No one liked that I did that because I went over about 5 heads. And I got to know the corporate executives, and they got to know me. And they gave me big budgets to do a whole bunch of movies. And in the course of that, I learned from them, and I actually started advising them. And I didn't know where it came from. It wasn't like I had learned that, except I did. I learned it from growing up at the dinner table every week with my father and going with my father a whole lot to work and business with him. And I started really talking to the heads of AT&T, the vice president, all kinds of people, and they called me the Daryl Zanuck of the telephone company. So I was already in the two worlds of coaching executives, even though I didn't know what the heck I was doing and where it was coming from. And I was already doing award-winning movies and documentaries for PBS. I got them all on PBS. Everything I've done almost has won an award. So that was in my 20s. So I was in both worlds because I grew up in both worlds. It was natural to me. And I keep saying, well, there was a point where I had to make a big decision. Should I do one or shall I do the other? And one of the ways I make decisions is I consult my integrity. And I said, which has integrity? And the decision was both. So I've done it my whole life. I've done both my whole life. So that's the short answer for a whole lot of things. And then you asked me, what is transformational consulting?
Yeah, like what is it? Like if I don't know exactly what that is, now
Right.
maybe it is exactly what it sounds like, but to you in practice, what does that look like?
That could be a 5-hour conversation, but I'll make it short. Well, first of all, you can get that I grew up feeling very comfortable with leaders of companies and with organizations and all of that, based on my background. So I was already doing documentary movies then, now doing feature films, but documentaries. And I segued to also starting a consulting company. I figured, why not? Because I had already been coaching corporate executives at AT&T, and at one point I'd left AT&T to go on my own. And so the transformational part is a methodology that I learned from some mentors who were amazing. And I had some mentors because the truth is I needed some serious coaching myself because I was kind of messed up from my childhood. Really was. So I got a whole lot of coaching myself. And I said, this is really cool. And the transformational part, it's not psychology. It really does work with leadership. And I've coached some of the biggest leaders in the world and some of their teams. And the transformational part is a paradigm shift. Now, I'm not going to talk fancy, theoretical language, but it's like transforming ice to water. The ingredient is H2O. The ingredient is H2O, but one is in one form and one is another form. So to take that analogy to a leader, they're still the same human being, and there's a transformation, not from ice to water, but let's say from, I'm thinking of one CEO I coached, from being really dominating and really controlling and really scaring his teams and and really coming down on them hard. And anyway, that's how he led. And I coached him. It was amazing that I did, but I did. And I coached him for 10 years. And he actually learned that there was another, he grew up on the streets of Philadelphia, so that's what he had learned. So he learned that there might be another way to operate where he wouldn't scare his whole team to death and it would suppress them and they wouldn't really cooperate or work very well and the revenue wasn't skyrocketing in any way. So I gave him all kinds of principles and theories and techniques and all kinds of things and practices about actually honoring people and actually being in someone else's world and actually thinking there's something else besides you in the configuration, you meaning him as the leader. And he loved it. He loved it. I remember he actually created a card like a driver's license with the 10 basic principles that I taught him on this card. So he keep it in his pocket and refer to it anytime. And he's so transformed that his revenue went from 100 million to 160 million in 3 years. And he won almost every both ethics and leadership award there is to win in this country. And he was written up in the Harvard Business Review. And it was an exceptional, exceptional thing. So do you get the transformation?
Oh yeah. And how did that feel for you? Like when you see that, when you're working with these coaches, part of it is you doing the work, right? But the other side is seeing that individual actually accept what you're saying, accept the teachings that you've been trying to employ. So
I know where you're going with that. Yeah.
How much of a victory do you take when you see your clients?
Well, it's not the accepting is the hard part because people's natural resistance, just like you and me and kids and everything. No, I don't want to. I won't. I don't know how to do that. That's not me. I'm sticking to my past. Well, it takes a whole process of what I call enrollment, of having them see that there's a better kind of way to lead than the way he was leading. I'll just pick this example. This refers to everyone. Than smashing people and getting them scared.
Yeah.
Domination and control or inspiration. Choose.
Right. Right. I'm an inspirational. I'm going to lean towards the inspiration side.
Yeah. But it becomes a choice when he saw the difference and he saw the damage he was creating.
Right.
So it's a process. It's not just people accept change right away. Are you kidding?
The world would be a very different place if people accepted change like immediately, right?
We're all stuck to our past. We're all stuck to our brain patterning. We're all stuck to what's familiar. We all stuck to what we know. And unless we see something that's more exciting.
Yeah.
And more empowering, not just exciting, more empowering to who you are as a human being.
Right. And speaking of exciting, before you got into the consulting, you were heavily involved in filmmaking, and I'm eager to dive into this chapter of your life and
I've
how,
always done both.
yeah.
I didn't stop with the filmmaking while I was doing this coaching.
Right. Where do you feel like that passion came from? You mentioned you've done documentaries, you did TV commercials, like how did that story begin?
I was always creative. I started, as I said, with drawings. I was always creative. It was just part of my existence. It really was. It wasn't even a thought. It was part of my existence. I remember I was riding on, I told you I went to New York to all these art exhibits, and I was riding on the subway to get to New York from Hoboken or wherever it was. And I remember I created a little mantra for myself when I was like, I don't know, 12 years old. Courage, confidence, integrity, and creativity. And it's always been my mantra.
Yeah.
So it's always been there for me. It's a natural expression. So when I got hired, I did get hired at AT&T to do corporate videos, and I ended up farming out all the corporate videos and doing documentaries and enrolling the CEOs in that this was a great idea for the company, the corporation, and they loved it. And they went to all the award ceremonies. I think they loved that the best, but they liked the exposure and the advertising on television. So from there, that was first the commercials in New York, then the documentary phase, and then the real goal was always, and I mean always, to do feature films. So at some point, I made a major choice to leave AT&T. Not that I didn't love it. I still have dreams about it even. It was the most wonderful experience being there and everything that I did. And I decided to do feature films. And I had found a mentor in New York. His name, he has passed away, but his name is Aaron Frankel. He found Robert Redford, and he's worked with almost every famous director in the country, just about at his time anyway. He was one of the producers for the Lunts, and he mentored me and he coached me in being a director and being a writer of feature films. He did Broadway, but the connection, loved the connection because you don't get much of that in Hollywood. And so I learned from one of the best to dramatize what I call subjects of real impact. And that's the same with the coaching. It's no different. It's getting into the minds of human beings, finding out what's really important in both these areas, and finding out what the transformation is. Because drama, I call the definition of drama a transformation. Transformation, they call it a character arc in, drama language. But the character arc for me is a transformation. So all of it is the same.
Would you say that the drama stories, those themes, are they the things that kind of speak to you the most when you're thinking about taking on a project? Or is that the themes that draws you to a project?
Well, what draws me to a project is not the drama, but the impact it can make. Just like making an impact with a whole organization like AT&T, or I've coached some people in the tops of governments, and that makes a big impact because you're impacting a whole country. So movies can make a huge impact. So I've always picked subjects, even when I was at AT&T doing documentaries. I always pick subjects, and I do now, that are going to have a big impact. For example, we have a movie on U.S.-China relations. It's not a documentary; it's a drama. It's about the start of the end of the Cold War and the beginning of U.S.-China relations. And it's about two athletes, two ping pong athletes, who broke the ice of the Cold War and inspired Chairman Mao and Nixon to talk. Now, for me, that's dramatic. For me, that's has huge impact. And it's with a studio right now. I'm engaged in additional funding to get it made, and it's going to impact the world. That's what I'm interested in. That's how I pick subjects.
Yeah. So is that the most current project that you're developing and working on, you're excited about?
There are others.
Yeah.
That's one of them. One of them is called Challenger: The Truth Told. You remember the Challenger space shuttle that
Mhm.
crashed? Well, I happened to meet the person who had researched for 30, maybe even 40 years about what really happened, and who knew the chief engineer at NASA, who knew what really happened. So this movie tells the true story of what really happened.
Wow.
It's a wow.
Yeah.
It is a wow. And of
Yeah.
course, it's about leadership, and of course,
Good.
and
Sure.
meaning
Yeah.
everything gets intertwined together. But that is what it's about, and it's going to set the record straight.
Yeah. I
So
love
that
that.
will make an impact, and it's truth telling. In fact, everything's truth telling. I worked with Sid Sheinberg, who was the head of Universal, and I work with him on a movie called Wallenberg, which has not been made yet. It's got stuck, and I'm gonna unstuck it. But what had him want? I mean, he didn't know me. I called him up on the phone. I got through to him, and he did all of Steven Spielberg's movies at Universal, and he wasn't interested in my Wallenberg movie. I'd written it already. He wasn't interested until I said to him, he said, "I want to get off the phone. I'm not interested. This is not anything I want to do. Why did you get in touch with me?" Anyway, I finally found what he was interested in, which was human rights and integrity. And that's really the basis of that movie, which is a subject worthy of everything.
Yeah.
That's just another example, but that's what had Sid Sheinberg buy in. In fact, he even um, showed Steven Spielberg the screenplay, and Steven has told me fairly recently that he really liked it.
Yeah. And how do you find that through line between the film and the work you do as a consultant? Because you said you've been doing both worlds for a really long time. So for you, what is that thorough line that connects them all together?
Well, that's a really good, you got good questions, really good. That's a profound and far-reaching question. Well, on the personal side, when I coach people, like I have a leadership coach on Monday nights, and the leaders I've been coaching on that call, some of them have been with me for 25 years. It's not because they're remedial, it's because they love it. But the truth is, I love it too. I not only love the contribution, what I love is it empowers me as much as them. Because I'm coaching myself when I'm coaching them. I am learning all the time. I am transforming all the time. So it gives me, so that kind of support is like the course I'm leading coaches me, and that coaches me to be powerful in the world with movies. It's all connected. It's all synergistic. It's all holistic. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. It's so amazing to hear, like when you have people that work with you for a really long period of time, the general time frame is what people work somewhere 3, 5 years, but to hear that the amount of people that are much longer than that, I think also attests to what you've built and what people see within you and gravitate towards you.
Oh, they're excited. In fact, I was just with them on Monday night, and one of the people actually we've been together for 35 years. I said, really? And we're actually doing a new project together that isn't even any of this, but um, I said, really? And he started out as a single salesperson, and he was or is from a blue collar family in Pittsburgh. And he has ended up um, the head of business development for IBM Asia, and um, launched about 3 or 4 companies that we've worked with together to make them successful. And it's been just a wild ride of incredible trust and incredible partnership. And really, I hate to say it in business, but love. Really, there's love there.
Yeah.
Real camaraderie and real love.
Love. Yeah. Well, with that, I'd love to dive deeper into you. Dive a little bit more into Joan and a little bit about your roots. Let's dial back. Let's go back a few years and talk about just like what was it like, growing up, being in all those business meetings at such a young age, and just about that experience.
Well, I loved all of that. But before that, even before that, I was one of 3 children, and I grew up on a horse farm in New Jersey. And I love sports. I don't talk about that much, but I've done almost every sport, and I was head of I don't know how many captain of teams in high school, and I rode horses, won awards, did tennis, won awards. They wanted to put me on the on the national circuit. I didn't want to do that. I studied philosophy and art instead, but that's what they wanted me to be, a jock. But I am a jock, but I didn't want to make that my career. So I did a lot of sports, and I learned a lot about competition, about courage, about failing, winning. Sports taught me so much. And so that was like from 5 to 12 time frame. And so I was a kid running around a farm and doing all this stuff. And I also had truthfully, a very challenging family situation. My parents didn't get along so well. So I got pretty, I call it messed up. I actually had serious headaches starting when I was about 10 years old. And I wanted to get to the source of what had me have these headaches. And no one could figure it out. But my engaging in transformational coaching had me figured out. I healed myself. So I heal myself in coaching. And it gives me power in the world. And it gives me power to heal the world. And I'm seriously interested in healing the world. I just said that to you. Wow. That's
Yeah.
really what I'm interested in.
Yeah. And it's such a great mission. And, you've kind of touched on a couple of them earlier, but, can you talk about some of the mentors that kind of helped you along the way? I mean, you've mentioned there were a handful of people that kind of helped you along the way,
Yeah.
and any special shout outs or anyone in particular that really stand out in your memory?
Well, one was the mentor, Aaron, that I told you about, who was the Broadway mentor for really everything I know about drama and writing and directing. And I had several other really great mentors um, in the consulting area. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but a person by the name of Werner Erhard, who founded Transformational Consulting. And I studied with him many, many years directly. We'd go to conferences, we and my colleagues, and he's still a mentor for me. He's not doing conferences anymore, but I study his work every week. So he's still a mentor for me. So he is the founder of coaching, transformational consulting, whatever you want to call it. And so he was definitely a main mentor for me. And there were other ones. I mentioned my father, my mother, a mentor in art in a kind of distant way, but she liked art, took us to Broadway plays all the time. And those are the main mentors. I think I'm missing somebody. Hold on a second. Those are the main ones.
Sure.
But I've worked with some of the best people in the world in the 2 fields that I'm working in. Oh, and Sid Sheinberg was a mentor for me, who was head of Universal. I mean, he really took me under his wing. His 2 sons didn't know what to do with me. It was like he had another child or something. Really. And we had lunches together, and we had dinners together, and we meet in New York, and we meet in LA, and for years. And he was like a mentor to me. He really was. And he believed in me, and that gave me so much confidence. He, one of the biggest moguls ever in Hollywood, really believed in me, and that gave me, and so did Aaron, so did all of these people. So that gave me a lot of confidence to really
Yeah.
be out there doing daring and courageous things.
Yeah. Well, when you're not out there doing daring and courageous things, whether it's
Yeah.
making films or documentaries or working with executives, what do you do in the maybe very little free time that you have?
What do I do like a normal person?
Oh yeah, what is your normal person stuff, Joan? What is that?
I am a normal person. And I like doing things that brink on the extraordinary. I first of all, what the main priority for me is my family. I had a wonderful husband and he passed away. And now I have a wonderful partner and we work together on movies. In fact, he's writing a book from the Challenger. He's a writer. And so that's a priority for me. My son and my daughter, and I have 3 grandchildren, are the absolute priority for me. I'll travel anywhere, do anything for them. And and so I love my family. My family's so important. I'm communication with them every week. I'm on Zoom calls. That's definitely a normal thing to do, but I do it also in a kind of abnormal way. I do a lot of it. And I also I'm a biker. I ride my bike 30 to 50 miles a week.
Wow.
And yeah, I love it, love it, love it. I couldn't do it because there was a lot of ice on the East Coast lately, and I was going nuts because I couldn't ride my bike, and I refused to have an inside bike. I only want a bike outside. And I'm also a skier. So I love doing all of those things. And also, I actually the most normal thing probably is I love cooking. I
Mm.
really love to cook, and I cook
Is
for
there a
kids.
dish?
Huh?
Is there a specific dish that you have that you're like, this is my go-to dish to
Oh,
make?
not just one, but I'm really good at cooking curry dishes. I'm really good at cooking vegetarian dishes. My boyfriend's a vegetarian, so I have invented so many vegetarian dishes that he loves
Yeah.
that you can't get anywhere.
Sure. Sure.
So I love cooking.
Yeah.
So that's
I love
pretty normal.
Yeah, yeah, I like the biking. I tried to do the same thing. I'm thankfully based in a little bit warmer area, so I can bike a little bit more, except during the summer. Okay,
Mhm.
when it's 110 degrees outside, I don't love to go out and bike and do that.
Right.
But to me, it's just being out in nature, right? It's just being outside. It's listening to the birds or just seeing grass and not
That's
just
the
looking at
best.
my computer screen all day.
Ah,
Which is
nature's the
sometimes what I feel
best.
like it is. Uh,
Absolutely, absolutely, and I had a lot of that when I grew up because we lived on a farm. I used to
mhm.
take hikes by myself when I was, like, 6 or 7, which I wasn't supposed to do up in the woods, like, for quite a few miles. They
Right.
never knew I had gone, and they never knew when I came back, but I did it. But I really love nature myself, and, that's what I love so much about biking and skiing, and, we have a beach house, and that's at the beach, so I like that too. We actually have a beach house, we go there occasionally.
Yeah. When you're riding around and when you're riding around, especially maybe your local area, your local neighborhood, your community, what does that feel like? Like, how do you feel like, and what's the importance of giving back to the community that you live in? How important is that to you?
It's very important. I wouldn't say I give back to the community directly where I live. I have done 29 years of pro bono coaching to hundreds, probably thousands of people. And that was the biggest give back. And it was big. So, do I do other things that are not on that scale? I do, but that's the biggest thing. And that is very important for me because my whole life is about making an impact and contributing. I mean, even with my grandchildren, my granddaughter said to me, about a month ago, she said, "I hope you spend as much time with Jax and Teddy as you." I'm going to get emotional, but with Jax and Teddy as you did with me, because she's on her way to college. Because I want them to get some of what you've got. She calls me Tata. She said, "I want them to have some of Tata."
I was going to ask you what your grandma sign is or your grandma name is.
Tata.
Ta-ta.
Tata comes from um, my 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 son-in-law's Israeli, and my granddaughter learned Hebrew from the beginning. And so the word for grandma in Hebrew is savta. And when she was really young, she couldn't say that word.
Sure.
It was too complicated. So she came up with the word tata. And now they all call me Tata.
It just sticks, right? It just sticks.
Yeah, they all call me Tata.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
But that's where it's from.
I love that. Joan, I know you're busy. Obviously, you got a lot going on. So I just got a few more questions and I'll let you go. I'm curious to dial back. Do you remember what the first commercial you were ever in? Can you like dial back the memory and think about like the first one you worked on or that you were in?
Yeah, I actually do remember that. It
Yeah.
wasn't that I wasn't in the commercials. I produced them. And it was a commercial for Anderson Advertising, I think it was. And it was about Posh Puffs. Kleenex things. And I did the artwork because I was already doing art. I did the artwork for the commercials, even though I was just supposed to be a production assistant. And that was the commercial early on.
Wow.
But I was already expanding the envelope. I went way beyond being a production assistant.
If you went back to your 15, 16, 17-year-old self and you told yourself, hey, this is what you're going to do in your career. Like I'm coming from the future. I'm telling you, do you think you'd make any different choices if you could start over or would you do it all again?
I thought about that question because you had sent me that question. And I don't think I'd do anything different. I'll tell you why. Because everything I've done has had integrity to who I am as a self-expression. Everything I've done has had an impact and a contribution, which is core to who I am. And everything has been a natural evolution and a natural expression from one to the other to the other. It's not like I planned all this. I didn't. So it's been an organic expression, I'd say. So how can you change that? It's integral to who I am and who I was. It's not like there's some external choice or something wrong or none of that. None of that.
Right.
So it all feels whole. Like one example is I studied revolutions in high school in history class, which was one of the most impactful things I've studied. Oh, that was a mentor for me, my history teacher. And I'm actually now doing a movie that's revolutionary. It's like Back to the Future. I'm actually back to what I learned in high school in a movie project that I'm working on right now. It just has come naturally. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to pick this subject because I learned about it in high school. No, it came to me like an awakening.
Right. Full circle moment, right?
Yeah.
And full.
Yeah. And it was like a discovery. It wasn't, I didn't even remember about what I studied when I came up with this idea. I didn't even come up with the idea. It came to me. And then I realized, oh, I studied this in high school. Oh my gosh.
So listen to your teachers. Things can come back, right?
Oh,
that they're learning. They come back later.
I think the biggest lesson is that when I'm operating out of being true to who I am, which is my integrity, life is free and good and a self-expression and I have power. When I violate that and I don't listen to who I am, things get messed up and I'm unhappy and things don't go well. It's just that simple. So that's been my guide all along. And sometimes I go off track and don't listen to myself. I have at times, and then I make mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, it's finding that North Star, I guess you could say, right? And just
except that North Star is something simple called integrity.
Right.
When I can't make a decision, I say, okay, Joan, what has integrity for you?
And just follow that.
That's been my guide. Now you can call that God. You can call that the state of being whole and complete. I call it all of that. It's kind of like in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were whole and complete. They had integrity before they ate from the tree of knowledge and tasted evil. So that's the originating state. And the truth is, back to some early questions, that's the source of coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching is returning people to their state of being whole and complete.
Yeah. That's such a wonderful way to just encapsulate the conversation that we've had today. But before I let you go, I got to ask just one more. Is just to you, what does being a Marquis Who's Who listee mean?
Well, it's an honor. It's really an honor. And the marketing person, I don't know if I'm allowed to say her name, but she's fantastic. It's like she's now a mentor to me in marketing, which, heck, that's really great. She's wonderful. So I've created a great relationship with your marketing person, and it's very valuable. So that's really my relationship to Marquis.
Awesome. Well, Joan, thank you so much for joining me today, sharing your story, your perspective, all the work you're doing. It was a wonderful conversation.
I love being with you, and the way you listen is keen and present and empowering.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Back to you, Joan. It was so great.
Thank you.
And hey, if this conversation resonated with you, the listener, consider sharing the episode with someone who's interested in leadership, creativity, the power of storytelling. And if you'd like to hear more conversations with remarkable leaders like Joan, be sure to visit marquiswhosu.com and subscribe to the Marquis Masters podcast wherever you listen. Once again, thank you so much to Joan Sugerman for joining me. I'm Nick Franck, and we'll catch you for the next Marquis Masters podcast.